Is it finally time for the 80s era Nissan 300ZX turbos to see the kind of appreciation that other youngtimers have on places like Bring a Trailer and Cars and Bids? Or will the fact that it's on PCAR Market, an auction site that's pretty much known for selling Porsches, be able to find any money at all for the little Z car? Let's find out. Bit Nerds is your daily YouTube car game show, where we predict the online auction results of the most interesting cars on Bring a Trailer, Cars and Bids, Hagerty Marketplace, and more. It's just like the Price is Right game show. Play along and see if you can beat the nerds.
All right, JP, our friend Mental selected for us a 1986 Nissan 300ZX Turbo with a 5-speed manual transmission on PCAR Market, showing just 71,000 miles from original. Our car is located in Orange City, Florida, and is offered in the incredible color of maroon with what I can only coin as like a plum interior. That is a lot of burgundy throughout. The carpets don't exactly match the leather, which don't match the paint or any of the plastics. It's a hilarious swirling menage of maroon, as Ben would say. I don't know what you call this generation of car. I was never a fan of these. I know, JP, you do have some love for these things, but like this is a turbocharged car that barely makes 200 horsepower. Again, I don't have any experience behind the wheel of these. Nobody in my family ever had one. I was only just turning 16 when this car came out, but I have no love for this. These cars, this generation of the Z doesn't speak to me. The one that came after it, John, I absolutely adore. I love that car. They're awesome, but this car doesn't doesn't move the needle for me. I like the exterior colorway. The car looks to be in good condition. I appreciate its status as a youngtimer, as a Radwood car, as we call it in this country. But you know, even at the number it's sitting at right now, I wouldn't give you that for this car. This car, I'd rather have the money than this car. Does that make any sense to you? So that's my stance on it. Does nothing for me. Mental, thank you for picking it. When you get to talk, you can tell us why this car was worthy of our attention. But it doesn't.
After that JP. Kick down, man, gosh.
Yeah. Just blah. I don't know. I'm just being honest. Whatever. There you go, JP. What do you like about it? Do you like it? Like, would you pay money for a car like this?
Yeah, I like this car. I think these are one of those kind of like under-realized cars. I think they still haven't popped. Driving one of these is like, I mean, it's a true sports car. I mean, from the 80s era, is when sports cars kind of went from, it does suffer a bit because there was a time when sports cars were all about just being sports cars. You didn't have power seats and windows and air conditioning, all that stuff. It was just, you got a sports car or you got a luxury car. And this is kind of in that era in the 80s when sports car manufacturers were like going, okay, well, if we want to command more money for these things, we got to start doing stuff like power windows. We got to start having all that luxurious stuff. And Nissan went crazy. I mean, they had all the like digital dashboards that were all like Atari 2600 style. Everything was like, 8-bit graphics on everything. And they just had buttons and switches and luxurious stuff that we take for granted now. But back then, this car was equipped. I mean, look at that interior. Look at all the whiz-bang stuff, all the gauges, buttons on the steering wheel in 86 or what? Yeah. I mean, nobody had buttons on their steering wheel in 1986. That was like how you shoot down Klingons. This was such a spaceship. The T-tops meant you could have that open air driving experience without having people give you a hard time for having a cabrio. I do really like these cars. They are a ton of fun. They are heavy. They are sluggish. They are underpowered, but it's still a 3-pedal car. With that long nose, it is just such a great 80s experience. And I think that this is one of those cars that people haven't quite discovered how good it is. A lot like a lot of the cars that we talk about, a lot of those cheap cars that were cheap for so long got destroyed. So to find a clean one and to be able to experience what this car was like when it was new is tough to do. So a lot of people they go out and maybe they've had an experience with an old 300ZX, but it was a clapped out one. So their impression of a 300ZX is that it's a terrible car. But when you get one that's clean and nice, and I think Deeb, you would be pleasantly surprised driving this thing, rear wheel drive, all that fun stuff. Do I think you'd turn into a 300Z lover? No. But I think you'd be pleasantly surprised. And then maybe you'd even get some taste. I don't know. It could happen.
I want to ask you a quick question because you said these haven't popped yet. So do you think there'll be a moment where this car pops and is suddenly worth like 3x what the top retail number is today?
3x,
before ICE engines are barred from the road? Like I don't think this car is gonna have a moment. I think its opportunity to have a moment is here right now, and this is as nice as example as we've seen that isn't one of the limited edition ones, which we've covered one or two of those. This is just a nice straight up one, and I don't think this car is worth anything.
Yeah, I know. We've heard it. We get it. Michael Deeb doesn't like it. We know. The sweet spot for one of these would be like an 88 or 89. They kind of had a 964 moment where they rounded out the bumpers and the car looked a lot better. And then obviously the 1990 version is a completely different car. That those are great cars. But anyways, Wade, what do you think of this is YoungTimer?
Yeah, I think this car is having its moment right now. I don't know that it'll get any more interest than it is right now. It's, as the kids say, it's kind of a vibe car, right? It's quirky, it's weird. It comes from a generation of cars that like power and speed and stuff weren't really there, but you got all these like weird technical things. You got buttons and knobs and screens and digital things that
Johnny is saying that John says that he's right. This is one of those that talk to you.
Yeah. Your door is ajar. Yeah. Your door is ajar.
It was exactly what like the Jetsons, what you thought technology would be in the 80s. And it's like this weird thing. If everything works and everything is cool on the inside of this car, I would imagine that somebody will have a fun time just being in it.
Yes.
And driving it is kind of like the cherry on top. It's never going to be like a collector's car, but this is a really nice example. And it's like the spec that like is weird and interesting, but you can tell whoever bought this car actually like thought it out. They were like, I want everything red. I want everything to match. I want it to be that nice maroon. It's luxurious. It's consistent to say the least. And I think that there are people from my generation who are going to think this is like really, really cool.
Yeah. Because they have more taste than Michael Deeb. All right, and Mental. What do you think, Mental?
Okay, so I brought this up, and I apologize for this. My dad sold Nissans, and I don't even think someone bought this car. I think this was a dealer spec car that they put on the showroom floor. Now, they sold a ton of these cars when they were out, the Z34 Model 300Zs, but most of them didn't have the full body kit. They didn't have the leather. They didn't have the electronic dash, all of these things. So this was the halo car that got people into your showroom. And then someone probably bought it when the next year model came out. And this is a Floridian car that they didn't even tint the windows. The fact that this thing has survived this long, and when so many of these cars were just thrown to the wind, it is not remotely fast. It is capable. It is a grand touring car, and it does represent this fascinating, unique, and bygone era. And I really want to, like, the dash picture where we're showing the green digital dash and then the orange stereo. A designer signed off on that and said, this is a good idea because it just shows everything off. And it is. And I understand this is never going to be a collector car in the sense of it, commanding six figures, but for $7,000, this is an absolute time capsule of something wholly and unique before the Japanese sports cars just took aim at the best of Europe and laid waste to them. They were just trying to be these great luxury barge cruisers, and you're just never going to see it again.
That is the biggest negative of this car is the fact that it's from Florida. And as well as this car is preserved, you can see evidence of the heat that it's had to endure. Yeah. There are bubbles in
yeah. Oh, and that's why none of that interior matches, because it's all faded at different rates.
Yeah, and it looks like they did a really good job trying to keep it out of the weather, but it's just you can only do so much. All right, what do we think this thing's going to bring? Is it going to stall out, or is it going to bring some money?
I don't know that there's any.
Tell us again that you don't like it. One more time. I don't. Here's your shot.
I don't think this car is on the right path for it. I think this car would do way better on cars and bids. So that's
Randy agrees with you.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's my first thing. It's also worth noting that our car closes in 2 days from now, and it's at $6,750 on just 3 bids. Now, again, PCAR Market gets a lot of their action at the end. I'm not saying this car is dead on arrival, but I think it's going to wind up in the chum bucket or the deal tank for around $30,000. And I think it's going to stall out at probably around $12,000. So I'll give you $12,000. Now, it's not what I think the car is worth. I think the car is worth 20 grand. But I think they're going to ask more than it's worth. And I think it's going to achieve less than what it's worth on this platform. So I'll give you $12,000 where it will fail to sell and wind up in the deal tank for like 29 or 30. But mental, it's a nice example. I think it's worth 20 grand.
Over and over, we see it on PCAR Market. Dealers, they look at BAT and they're like, oh, I don't want to wait a month or 2 months. I don't want to sit on a car that long. They have the idea that it's just going to take too long to get the car to market. So they think, oh, I can get it on PCAR Market right now, like tomorrow. Okay, let's do that. And so they rush to market thinking that that's the better opportunity. But you guys are right. The eyeballs are not going to be there for this car. This is not a Porsche. This is a weird car. This car would do better on cars and bids because I think that would really be where this car should be, probably even better than BAT. So yeah, that's your take. You're right. So I'm gonna go with 15,300 and send it to Wade.
Yeah, I could have seen Doug actually reviewing this car and making a video on it, because I'm sure it has a lot of quirky, weird things that he would talk about, and that would definitely be in the right platform and probably inflated the numbers ever so slightly. It's tough. I don't know that this is like a 30 grand car. I feel like it'll get enough bids where, like, if the seller is relatively realistic, you should probably sell it. If it hits $17,500, which is my guess, I think he should probably just sell it and move on. Yeah. And I mean, maybe 6 months from now, if it's on Bring a Trailer, it might do slightly better, but I don't know if it's going to bring 20 or 25 or 30 grand. I think that's a fair price for the car, honestly.
Where are you at, Mental?
So I'm going to take a slightly different hot take and say that no, while this car would do much better on cars and bids, you know where it should have gone, Michael Deeb? Haggerty. It should have been curated by someone who cares, who cares about the seller's experience and would care about the car. I do think it's probably a $20,000 car, but yeah, no way. And I'm with the nerd herd who is all in the 15 to 20,000 range. I am also going to say 16.5 fails to sell in the chum bucket. But if it stays under 10, I might have to be taking a trip to Florida soon, because this thing is just too cool.
Road trip. Let's do it. All right.
What? I'll chase. I'll follow you back in your Tiptronic Speedster.
Where was the Speedster? It was
Atlanta.
In Florida. Oh, it was in Atlanta. Okay, let's do it. All right. Yeah. We go to Atlanta, get the Speedster, drive down to Florida.
We'll have dinner with my parents. It'll be great. They live in Atlanta. Yeah, this will be great.
This is going to be fun. All right, I'm excited. We got next week all planned out. This is going to be a good time. Hey guys, I got to tell you about our friends Godden Porsche of Las Vegas and Godden Classic. If you're looking for a new Porsche or a classic, you got to call our friend Steve at Godden. Save yourself the hassle of screwing around with all the auctions like we always talk about, and just talk to Steve. He'll find you the classic Porsche you're looking for. Godden Porsche of Las Vegas. Hey guys, you're probably looking at your watch and wondering if Bid Nerds will ever end. So you better talk to our friends at Our Smiths to make sure your Rolex, Tag Heuer, AP, or any fine timepiece is in tip-top shape. Our Smiths, fine Swiss repair.
JP, my favorite car of all time, the 1986 Nissan 300ZX Turbo with a 5-speed manual. Mental picked this car for us, and we found out during the show that Mental's father used to work with Nissan or Datsun, probably back in the day. And so Mental has a soft spot for these cars. I don't know why. I thought Mental was a car enthusiast. But
There
this
we
car...
go. We know from the last episode. Hey, I'll just skip to Michael Deeb doesn't like this car. He's going to tell drink for the next every time he says he doesn't like it. It doesn't do anything for him. Yes,
71,000 miles, located in Orange City, Florida. Our car is on PCAR Market and was running with a reserve. So with that in mind, I was the low man on the totem pole, not my favorite car. So I said $12,000. JP came in over me at $15,300. Wade was the high bidder at $17,500. And then Mental came in between Wade and JP at $16,500. Now, there's a couple of numbers to unpack here. This is a little bit unusual. But before we get to those, Mental, do we have the herd's bids on the car?
Not yet. Randy is there. He is.
Oh, yeah.
Bam! Just threw it up there.
Randy had to go to the
Randy
bathroom.
delivers.
Yeah. So let's see. So Randy was at 14. Anthony was at 16.5. Let's see. What am I looking for? That's a good number right there. Chris at almost 20. Kevin at 8. Another Michael at 12.5. David at 17,000. That's a good bid.
Hey,
and
Kevin
Jim
was at $8,500. Is that it? Wait, how much did this go for?
Yeah.
Or how much?
So,
what was it? What did it actually get bid to?
yeah. So
Man,
here's the thing.
He was the closest one. Holy cow, that was close.
Yeah, so our car hammered at $8,750. So Kevin was $250 away from a Yahtzee on the front end. I'm the winner on the front end at $12,000 because I didn't like the car. But before we came live tonight, they sold the car by accepting an offer at $16,000, which would put Mental, who picked this car and actually loves it, right back in play for the win. Mental, you don't get credit for that. It's like a merit badge, like your parents are proud, but nobody else really gives a shit. So anyway, our car hammered at $8,750, where it failed to sell on just 7 bids. So before we get to the fact that they tripped the car for nearly, what am I doing here? $7,000, $8,000, $9,000 more. Let's talk about the fact that this car only got 7 bids. Is it because it's an unusual Nissan on, the guys who try to sell signs and supercars? Or is it just because 300Zs don't have that big a following? What's your reaction to the bid count, JP? Let's start with that.
Yeah, I mean, anytime. Look, bottom line is PCAR Market is trash in general, and I mean, let's be honest, right? And and the best they do, I mean, they do deliver sometimes on Porsches, but if you don't have a Porsche, this is not the platform. I don't know what the hell the seller was thinking putting this car on PCAR Market. This thing should have been on Cars and Bids. This had Cars and Bids all over it. Doug DeMiro would have liked this car. This is the kind of car. Did somebody say this before? Did we say this on the last episode? Did you say it, Mental?
Wade was
like, yeah.
I think we all agreed.
Doug would have done a video on it if he had seen this hit his platform, which would have given it all kinds of extra love. I still think, I bid low because of the platform. I think if this thing were on Cars and Bids or Bring a Trailer, this is a $25,000 car. That car is as nice as they come. So 16 grand. What's that?
So you think that it's entirely possible that the winning bidder at 16 grand could remarket this car,
absolutely,
bring it back to Cars and Bids in 90 days and make, arguably $10,000. If
the market is strong this spring, because that's the big question right now. Everyone's like, okay, what's going to happen with the market?
Rates are coming down, right?
Rates are coming down. If we get a bump in the market, if things get strong this spring, if the weather turns around in spring like it always does, and sports cars in general start to bounce back from the winter, buying this car for 16 grand, they're going to make a nice little flip on this thing if that's what they intended to do.
Nice.
And have a great car in the meantime. I don't know where they are or where they live, if they can enjoy it in the meantime. But I mean, this thing is just, if you do like one of these, this is as nice as one as we've seen almost ever. So on any of the auction platforms. So yeah, this was pretty darn great.
What's his other car?
What's whose other car?
You said he would have a great car in the meantime. What's his other car?
What? No, I said if he can enjoy it if he lives in an area where he can enjoy the car, he's going to have a good time.
You know how in the text when you get all mad at us if we explain the joke? Okay, he's implying that the guy won't be driving this car.
I still don't get it. I still don't get it. I guess it's just, it's just the
herd is laughing.
Do any of you guys get that joke? I just whoosh right over my head. I don't. Not hitting me. Yeah. So I guess, maybe you can take the T-tops off and enjoy the snow. What do you guys think of the results of this 300ZX? Was this well bought? Was that a steal? Are we going to see this car again in the spring on a better auction platform? Mental, did you talk about this thing? I don't even know. I was like trying to get over these jokes.
Did. The herd is actually, the money aside, this thing really is a time capsule to a bygone era. And there was a great joke in there about you could only bid on it if your sports coat had shoulder pads and things like that. And I hope that the person who bought this car, that's kind of what they're looking for, the same way that everyone buys the car. But yeah, this was the machine to have. This was the, you have arrived at your job car when it was new.
Yeah. Poverty sucks.
I still really like these with the last 2 years. They kind of 964ized them by rounding out the bumpers. And this, I'd love to see one of those pop up with a manual. And yeah, that'd be a good time. Those cars are pretty fun.
We'll cover it.
If it comes up.
Mental won't let one go by, so don't worry.
Hey guys, thanks for watching this clip of the Bid Nerds podcast. Play along with us live every Sunday and Wednesday night at 6:30 p.m. on YouTube. And see if your bids stack up to the rest of the nerd herd in the chat live. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Nerd! Get those nerds!